The polar vortex brought a blast of Arctic cold air to America's heartland.
Welcome to Plain English, the podcast that goes at the right speed for English language learners. Listen now and read the transcript online at plainenglish.com. Now, here's Jeff, your host for today's episode.
The coldest temperatures in a generation brought the upper Midwest of the United States to a halt for a few days at the end of January. Depending on the place, it was 20 or 25 degrees below zero Fahrenheit, about 30 below zero Celsius. That, I am here to tell you, is very cold. Welcome back to Plain English. Great to have you with us once more for another exciting edition of our English podcast. Today is episode 128. I'm Jeff. JR is the producer. JR, you'll be glad to know, is not fired after last Thursday. He has, however, been issued a warning that further acts of insubordination may be punishable by a one-episode suspension. But as of today, he is still the producer. Our email addresses, if you'd like to get in touch with us, are Jeff, Jeff, at plainenglish.com and jr@plainenglish.com. WhatsApp works also. Send us a message to +1 312 967 8757. The transcript of today's episode can be found at plainenglish.com/128, and that is exactly where you will find the instant translations too. You'll see translations of the most difficult words and phrases from English to Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Chinese, French, and Japanese. plainenglish.com/128. I also want to mention our partnership with Você. I hear from so many of you who are learning English for a lot of great reasons. Well, any reason is a great reason, but many of you are doing this for a specific professional reason. You are taking a test to try to get a scholarship, or you work for an international company, or you're going to travel or move to a new place. And a lot of you are asking about ways to practice that are more interesting, more fun than just looking at a textbook. And that's why I like Você so much for Spanish. It's high-tech, interactive, and lots of fun. They have a wide variety of programs, from free apps to a great English pronunciation course to their full online suite of programs. And you can learn all about those at plainenglish.com/learn, LEARN, plainenglish.com/learn. 6 million people have signed up in one way or another at Você, and I know there's something there that's right for you. So check out Você at plainenglish.com/learn. For 3 bone-chilling days at the end of January, the people of Chicago, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis, and all the farms and fields in between, suffered from some of the coldest temperatures seen in a generation. For a brief time, it was warmer on the North Pole than it was in Chicago. Schools and businesses closed, airlines canceled flights, and homes and cars suffered under the strain of this once-in-a-generation cold. Water pipes in homes burst, cars refused to start, furnaces strained to keep up with the plunging temperatures, and train tracks broke apart. Heroic repair crews worked outside to keep essential utilities like electricity and gas working properly. Most people heat their homes with natural gas here in the Midwest. In some places, utility companies were telling people to keep their indoor thermostats at a chilly 60 degrees just to keep the entire system from overloading. The Central Business District of Chicago, the third largest city in the United States, was a ghost town as the businesses told workers not to come into the office. Most restaurants were also closed for at least one day. Mail service was suspended. In Minneapolis, even the snowplows, normally the hardiest of vehicles, came to a halt. Most people in Chicago and Minneapolis managed not to leave their homes. Downtown businesses, like I said, told people not to come into work, and most people heeded that advice. Others were brave enough to go outside for a short walk, but anyone who did venture outside had to bundle up and cover almost every square inch of exposed flesh, because just a few minutes would have been enough to induce frostbite. That's what happens to your skin when your skin freezes. It's not good. The slightest moisture on your eyelashes or eyebrows would turn to ice crystals in just a few minutes. Health officials were warning people not to talk outside and to minimize deep breaths, since breathing in too much cold air could actually hurt your lungs. Chicago hit a low of minus 23 degrees Fahrenheit. That's minus 31 degrees Celsius, near the all-time record of minus 27, which was reached in 1985. Minneapolis hit minus 27. Detroit's minus 13 degrees was the coldest ever on record in that city. The coldest city in America that week was Norris Camp, Minnesota, which reached minus 48 degrees, which is minus 44 Celsius. Wow. Apart from the big cities, the Midwest is a very rural area. Farmers struggled to keep their livestock alive and to a certain degree comfortable in the cold. One farmer said he had to dry off newborn calves with a towel since they come out a bit moist right as they are born. The farmer didn't want the newborn calves to freeze in their first few moments on this earth. In Chicago, they set fire to the train tracks to keep them warm, literally. When temperatures drop that low, the steel rails contract so much that they can break apart at the switches, which would cause trains to derail. So crews laid fuel-soaked ropes around the tracks in those areas where there are switches, and they set those ropes on fire to raise the temperatures of the rails so that they wouldn't break apart. At the airport, thousands of flights were canceled, fuel lines froze so planes could not refuel. Amtrak train service, which connects Chicago to other cities in the country, that service was suspended. The cold was caused by a break in the polar vortex. The polar vortex is a swirling mass of the coldest air on Earth. It's usually contained in the Arctic region, but for a few days it spilled much farther south, reaching into the big cities of the Midwest region of the United States. The last time this happened was 2014, but that cold wasn't as bad as the frigid temperatures that struck this year. Anytime a cold snap like this hits, it's important to think about people who are vulnerable to the weather, people who don't have a home to go to. Big cities set up warming stations for people to go to if they either didn't have a home or if their heat at home wasn't sufficient. Oftentimes, homeless people gather together under tents and blankets and hunker down to survive the cold. In one spot in Chicago, they were using propane tanks to provide a little heat, but a tank exploded and the police confiscated the rest of the propane tanks, leaving the people outside with no way to warm up. Luckily for them, a Good Samaritan offered to pay for hotel rooms for the 70-odd people who were in that area. A lot of you were wondering how I survived the cold. Apparently, this cold made the news around the world. I actually wasn't in Chicago or the Midwest for the worst of it. I was in New York that week for work. The coldest it got there was 10 degrees above zero, which is still very cold, but definitely manageable. I felt a little disappointed, though, because I missed out on all the action. I kind of wish I had been here in Chicago. If I had been, I think I would have gone outside just for a few minutes, maybe just for 1 minute, just to see what the cold feels like. I think the coldest I've ever felt was about -5 or maybe -10 Fahrenheit. So I'm a little disappointed I missed out on the weather event of a generation. I liked seeing the videos of people boiling water inside and then walking outside and throwing it outside and seeing the boiling water freeze instantly. Those were fun. All right, time to say hi to a few listeners. Rogerio is from Sao Paulo, and he has been with us since episode 50, and he listens to us on the bus. I also heard from Luis from Guadalajara. He was telling me about the movie Roma, which we talked about on episode 120. Luis says he can personally attest that the depiction of Cleo in that film is an accurate portrayal of the deep and complicated relationship caregivers like Cleo have with the families they serve. He also says that a lot of the scenery brought back memories from when he was growing up too. So I enjoyed hearing about Luis's experience and his thoughts on the movie. Finally, hello to Jacqueline from Germany, who has been attentively following all the Brexit episodes. Jacqueline had an internship in the European Parliament, and she uses English to connect with people from all over the world that she encounters in her studies and work. That is one great thing about English in Europe. It is the most convenient language for people around the small countries of Europe to communicate with one another. If you're an Italian visiting Amsterdam, or German visiting Barcelona, or a Russian visiting Paris, one thing you have in common is English. I wonder if that'll change if Britain leaves. Not sure. Okay, the word I'd like to share with you all today is Good Samaritan. It's used today as a euphemism for a charitable or helpful person. It comes from the parable of the Good Samaritan, a story told in the New Testament. In the story, a man is beaten, stripped of his clothing, and left for dead on the side of the road. 2 people pass by and avoid him, but a third person stops to help. That person who stops is known as the Good Samaritan, and that is where we get that term today. Right at the end of our discussion of the cold weather, I mentioned that a group of about 70 homeless people in Chicago were using propane fuel tanks for heat. But after one of those tanks exploded, the police confiscated the remaining tanks. That would have left those people without a source of heat on the second coldest day in this city's history. But a person in Chicago, we do not know his or her name, offered to pay for hotel rooms for those people who were going to have to stay in a warming center overnight. That person, who did a good deed for strangers, is known as a Good Samaritan. In fact, that's exactly how you see it written in the news, and I would say usually, not always, but usually, you see this term when you don't know the identity of the person helping out, or if that person is a total stranger. I'll give you a more personal example. I was the beneficiary of a Good Samaritan recently. Here in the U.S., you need to keep a sticker on the license plate of your car, proving that your car registration is current. I got my sticker in the mail and somehow managed to lose it. I put it in my back pocket and then forgot about it. When I remembered it, it was gone. I looked everywhere in my house, and I figured I had lost it forever. That's when an envelope came in the mail from a furniture store here in Chicago. It was curious because I remember going into the store, but I was sure that I had not given my address. So I was surprised to get something in the mail from them. I opened the envelope, and sure enough, it was my car registration. A note said that a customer found the sticker on the ground in the store. Luckily, it was in the original envelope, which had my address on it. The person who picked it up and gave it to the store employee, and the store employee who then mailed it to me, well, I consider both of them to be Good Samaritans. They did not have to do what they did, but I am extremely grateful to them. You might remember episode 53 when we talked about a man in Paris who climbed up the exterior of a tall apartment building to save a child who was dangling from a fourth-floor balcony. He is another good example of a Good Samaritan. That's all for today's episode. Remember to join us each and every Monday and Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen. You know, a lot of you discover us on Spotify, but if you're looking for another convenient way to listen, you might try to find us on Android or iOS by doing a search for podcasts. The podcast app should already be on your phone, so that's another way you can listen. Also, don't forget Você Lingua at plainenglish.com/learn. And JR and I will see you later on this week for another exciting episode of Plain English. See you then.